Good morning and welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast, where we answer your questions and give practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. I'm Danielle Glesney, dietitian and host with you today. So we are going to just talk about how can we be considerate of our kids' food preferences and encourage variety in what they eat. So doing those things together is what we're going to talk about as the goal, because sometimes what I have found when working with clients is we're struggling as parents. It's kind of a fine line between being considerate of their food preferences and also encouraging variety in a way that, is not hindering their motivation. So, I think first, I just like to point out that as parents, we empathize with our kids when they don't want to try something new. At the table, we remember when we didn't like fish or we didn't want to eat our peas. Or maybe some of you as adults too would describe yourself as a picky eater. So maybe you struggle with certain textures or smells or have just a limited variety of foods that you eat yourself. So again, we just want to dive into how we can be considerate of our kids' food preferences and encourage their variety in their diet. Because the more variety that we have, the more nutrition we're delivering to our bodies. So even if you have, 3, 4, even 5 vegetables that you eat, you can have variety within those 5 vegetables by making each vegetable, 3 to 5 different ways. Maybe, stir frying or roasting or steaming or incorporating it in a soup or, so there's lots of ways to have variety, but I would encourage you just to think about how many different vegetables and fruits and whole grains and protein options do your kids have and do you have? Because they will, pick up on your variety. So we'll talk about that as well. But that is our goal, is to just how can we be considerate, respectful to our kids' food preferences, but also not hinder their motivation to try something new. So we are basically wanting to treat them with respect the way we would want to be treated. And so that has to be good. So this is what we have for you today. So during this episode, I would like to discuss how we can respect our kids and give their, food choices some variety. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but as we respond as parents, we can either hinder their motivation to branch out or try something new. So just one quick disclaimer, the root cause of picky eating can really vary. So this episode is not designed to solve picky eating for you and your child, but instead just to take one step towards encouraging your child in the correct way to, foster that motivation and respect your child without pressuring them. So Ellen Satter is a dietitian and feeding therapist that is internationally known for her feeding models. And one of her models is called the division of responsibility. And you've probably heard me talk about this before because it is really important. It's like laying the foundation to your family meals, because when we follow this division of responsibility, which has roles for parents and roles for child or children, everyone stays in their roles, then we can really eliminate pressure. So that's the first step in eliminating pressure, is when we're able to follow these roles. And so if you haven't heard me talk about this before, let me review. So the parent role is to decide what food is being served, when it's being served, and where it's being served. So ideally at the table without distractions. But so that's the parent's role. And the child's role is to decide if he or she will eat the food, and if so, how much. So the child is responsible for those two things. So that's their choice. And so this model is encouraging for variety for most picky eaters because the child gets to have those two choices, if he or she will eat and how much. So you're respecting the child's body and the child's ability to choose. So that is one way to foster motivation, because they don't feel pressure at the table to do what you wish for them to try that one bite of chicken. So no pressuring. That is not the correct way to motivate your child to try something new. So it feels hard. I remember I did all types of pressure, and a lot of them are positive in our eyes, and a lot of them, definitely are negative, but you just get so frustrated. So I have been there. But other ways to be considerate of your child's food preferences or respect your child when you're staying in those roles is one, offering dips and sauces. So, I remember my youngest boy, he had ketchup with his salmon for multiple years. I think he just gave up ketchup with his salmon. He chose that. He chose the ketchup to have with the salmon, and because that does not sound good to me. And he ate that salmon like he loved it. I think majority of it was ketchup, but now he is enjoying the salmon without anything but however it is already seasoned. And so offering dips and sauces can be a really fun way to respect your child and lean into their food preferences. Another one would be to offer food cut in certain ways. So you can, just practice different ways to present food. Research shows that kids are really influenced by presentation. And so making it fun, as best you can, as time willing, to cut foods a different way. I'm trying to think of a specific example of what I've done recently. I know some people would use cookie cutters to, make a star out of the peanut butter and jelly, or sometimes I'll peel just certain sides of the cucumber and then leave the skin on the other sides. And then when you cut it, it looks really pretty. You could do zucchini noodles. Those are fun. That's a different shape for the zucchini. So think about that. Just maybe get a little creative on Pinterest or something like that of different fun ways to present foods, because kids are actually really influenced by that. So that could be a way to lean into their desires. And then another one would be to serve things disassembled or separate. So there's lots of dishes, soups and casseroles and tacos and quesadillas or what have you that are, meant to be served together. And so when my son was going through this picky eating phase, to lean into his food preferences, I always ask, do you want yours separate or together? So if we're making like a rice bowl, I would just put all the ingredients separate on his plate, or, he would choose which ingredients are on his plate. So like if a chicken quesadilla, you can have the chicken on the side, or he doesn't even have to have the chicken. So that's the no pressure. He can choose if he wants the chicken. And then the other disassembled things like draining the broth out of a soup, or, separating the soup at the table. Like you're still going to be cooking and making it easy for yourself by cooking one meal. But how can you disassemble it? For example, this week, one of my son's favorite dishes is shrimp pasta, and my other son won't eat shrimp. And so, that's one of his foods that he won't eat. So I will just say, Carter, do you want to try the shrimp or not? And he will probably say no. And so he'll just have the Barilla Protein Plus pasta. So he's still getting a good protein. And then broccoli with the noodles and some Parmesan possibly. But yeah, so serving things disassembled, and maybe one day he will like shrimp. So far, Carter, has come a long way. I remember one of our favorite meals was like a staple, like we could always have it on hand. So it was a really fast and easy meal, was black bean tacos. And he would not touch that for the longest time. I was giving up hope a little bit, but still stayed in my role. And now he loves black bean tacos, and it's an easy staple for us to have when I haven't prepared something for dinner. So yes, offering things disassembled or separate. And then the next one would be your child gets to choose if it goes on the plate. So a way to do this would be, if you already know that your child does not prefer it on his plate, you can just ask as you're dishing up the plates, or you can do, kind of that family style where everything's on the table in different bowls. And then, just asking while you're at the table, who wants what. So that is another way to be respectful of your child. And still, they're going to be able to watch you eat different foods at the table. And so by not putting it on the child's plate, you're not like losing the battle. So that's something we just have to be patient with, but that is a way to be respectful and not hinder their motivation. So the next one would be to ask for meal ideas for the week. So you're not asking, do you want this for dinner or this for dinner? You are asking, I'm going to the grocery store. What are your meal ideas for this week? It's kind of funny because my kids always come up with the same ideas. So that just goes to show you that, they shouldn't be in charge of meal planning at age 6 and 8. So that is just one way to get them involved. Even when they're at the grocery store with you, you can say, what fruit do you want this week? Do you want to try, pick 2 vegetables out of these, or whatever's on your shopping list, allow them to help you make some choices in the grocery store. And so another way would be to away from the table. It's kind of important to do this last one away from the table, maybe at the grocery store or maybe in the car, because we don't want it to be considered pressure by the child. So one way is if you are one that remembers being a picky eater as a child, you can talk about that with him or her, and you can show them how far you've come. You can come up with one example of a specific food that you remember you did not like. And now, you've tried it so many different ways and you do like it. You're okay with it. And maybe it's not your favorite food. It's not birthday cake, but all of our foods are not meant to taste like birthday cake. So empathizing with your child, having that conversation, showing them you're human too, and making sure that's away from the table so it is not perceived as pressure by your child. So when your child chooses meals, I just want to kind of walk through what this looks like. So when your child chooses meals, their incentive to learn to like new foods goes to 0. Okay. So a possible analogy I came up with is finding enjoyment in an activity. Okay. So if your child doesn't witness anyone having fun in that activity, are they going to be interested to try it? Okay. So if your child doesn't witness anyone having fun in an activity, are they going to be interested in trying it? So for an example, if I play basketball outside with my boys and they have fun, is it more likely for them to want to play basketball? I would say yes. If they never witness someone having fun playing basketball. Okay. So that is why, this analogy kind of brings up the point that your child does need to see you enjoy a variety of foods. So if you are a parent that would say you're a picky eater, you are a picky eater yourself, then you can just team up, and this is a journey for the whole family. And so, I would love to help you with this, because I know it's hard to make change in yourself when you've struggled with it for so many years. But it is possible. And, it's just a great way to lean. If you think about the basketball analogy, it's a great way to have a non-pressure, respectful, fun environment to provide encouragement and desire. So I wanted to just talk about why parents want, why do we want to let our children choose their meals? Okay. So we're tired of wasting foods. I understand this. I understand all of these reasons. So why parents want to let their children choose meals is we are tired of wasting food. So we just ask, do you want chicken fingers or chicken quesadilla for dinner? Or we just feel like we're out of hope for our child to try something new. You've tried all these different ways to help them eat something different and it's not going well. And you're thinking, well, maybe this is just how children eat and they'll just become more adventurous later in life. And I will tell you, it doesn't work that way. Sometimes it does, and that is great. But there's lots of reasons for picky eating. And so if we just lay this foundation of these roles from Ellen Satter, it can make a huge difference. But not, like I said, it's not going to solve all picky eating problems. So I can, walk through some different therapies with you with that. And if this is the first step you take, or you want to take this step together with me, I would be happy to do that. But I just wanted to kind of point out that when we're allowing our children to choose meals, it's not an age appropriate activity for our kids. So it might feel like you're being respectful, but we kind of, like I said, just talked about all these other ways that we can be respectful of our kids. But it's just really not an age appropriate activity for our kids. So we choose age appropriate activities in like toys and books and, all these things. And it's for our kids' safety. It's for our kids to grow in their abilities, and it's for them to understand what they are doing. So if we give them a book that's not age appropriate, they're not going to understand it. Or an activity that's not safe, obviously they can get hurt. So when we allow our child to pick their meals or only serve what we know they will eat, I'm going to give you a couple analogies of what this might be like, of how they need to they're not old enough to understand, they're not old enough to choose what's best for their body, and they're not old enough to consider consequences of their actions. And so with Ellen Satter Division of Responsibility, she talks about doing meal planning and prepping with a teenager. So I'm talking for families that have kids that are not in the teenage years. So in the teenage years, you can, this might look a little different. So there'll be more education and discussion and things like that. You're still staying in your roles, because just because your kids are old enough in the teenage years to make a meal doesn't mean they're ready to. So that's kind of another topic for another day. But what I'm talking about here is, preschool and toddlers and school age kids, middle school kids. So this applies to a lot of kids. They are not age appropriate to make choices about meals. Now, it doesn't mean they can ever decide what snack they're having. I definitely, could talk about that with you later, but this is, every day only serving what they'll eat, or every day, giving them two options of what dinner will be or what have you. Okay. So choosing meals, or only serving what your kids will eat, is similar to your child picking out your vitamins. They are not old enough to understand what the body needs. I do encourage food first, so this is not my favorite analogy, but you get the point. They're not old enough to understand what their body needs. Okay, so their body needs variety, and so they will not choose that because they are not old enough to understand that's what their body needs. Second, allowing your child to pick their meals or only serving what they'll eat is kind of like allowing your child to go to bed at whatever time they choose. So again, they're not old enough to choose what is best for their body. So they're not old enough to understand what's best for their body, and they're not old enough to choose what's best for their body. So obviously sleep is very important and they want to stay up. I remember that as a kid. Every child does. But so it's those two factors: understand and not old enough to choose what's best for their body. And the last one Allowing your child to pick their meals or only serving what they'll eat is similar to letting your child play outside in shorts during the winter. So they're not old enough to consider consequences of their actions. So consequences of their actions of not having variety in their diet, we're going to get sick more often, not get enough protein or fiber or what have you. So that there are consequences to only having a limited amount of foods in a day. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was just a fun few analogies to kind of shift your thoughts about how to be considerate of your child, respectful of your child, empathize with your child without hindering their motivation, and encouraging them in a non-pressure way. And like I said, this is just a short glimpse into how I can help with picky eating. I have a new picky eating package, which means I really don't like just one appointment with parents and families on picky eating, because I'm really just getting you started. I'm only giving you like a fourth of the information that you need and a fourth of the support that you need. So that's why I wanted to tell you about this picky eating package that I have, because it is definitely more hands-on, allowing you to get the help that you need through the process until you feel comfortable on continuing the journey. So it's just, I've been through it. I know how it is as a mom, and as a dietitian, I dove deep into it because I really wanted to help other families, in this trouble. So picky eating package, this is for parents who have struggled with their child's picky eating for a short time or years and are motivated for change. So in the first session, you will learn root causes of picky eating, a model of feeding that restores peace and eliminates pressure, methods in introducing new foods, and what to expect and how to respond in the process. And as well as that first meeting, you walk away with specific goals to get started. Okay, really specific goals. I am a very practical person. And then in session 2 and 3, we look at what is going well and what are struggles to determine the next most important steps. So I can't really say, what those next important steps are, because it depends on the person. Is very tailored per family. But one area of discussion may be different ways to prepare foods to provide more opportunity for variety. Or another way would be how to maintain your health goals. Because as your child's learning to enjoy new foods, that can be hard on parents to, still prioritize their health. So we talk about that. And then session 4 is designed to give you all the tools that you need to choose foods that are best for your family, foster a healthy relationship with food, and just establish a really rewarding approach to your family's health. So, if we need more sessions, that's a lot of information to cover in just 4 sessions. But if we need more, we can always do that. But that is a minimum of 4 visits, because that's just how long it takes to feel really comfortable and solve this picky eating. It's not something that can go away on its own all the time. And sometimes there's more therapies that are needed than just this one feeding model that I mentioned here. So yes, please share this podcast if you found it helpful. If you know a family member or friend that has a picky eater. And as always, we want to thank Happy Pill for our theme song, Thinking About Food. Also, follow us on social media at Imago Nutrition, IMAGO Nutrition. Thank you so much. Have a great day.